How to avoid fat loss plateaus forever and never struggle with fat loss ever again. This is what we've done with all of our clients over the course of the last few years here. And they've seen tremendous results. The last thing that we want is y'all to see it on plateaus and then feel demotivated and fall off. And we're gonna deep dive into it tonight on this training. Let's break down two different fat loss journeys, person A and person B. Person A is someone who cuts out breakfast, cuts out all their carbs and a lot of their calories in hopes to lose weight fast. They end up losing 20 pounds within the first 4 weeks. But then come week 5 or 6, that's when they hit their first plateau. They get discouraged for 2 weeks and they end up gaining about 10 pounds back. And then they try to rediscipline themselves and they lose 5 pounds in those next 4 weeks, getting right back on track. And then they find themselves stuck at another plateau for a couple of weeks. And then they're like, fuck this, yo. Why am I at a plateau? I'm putting in all this work. I'm making all these sacrifices. I'm disciplining myself. And then they end up gaining 5 pounds back. And they feel like a failure because they can't seem to lose that weight despite all of the work that they're putting in on a day-to-day basis. They get fed up and they try to get right back into it for a couple more weeks, but they can't lose any more weight. Person A ends up losing a total of 10 pounds in a matter of 24 weeks, and they're left with a crashed metabolism. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Has this ever happened to any one of you guys? You started off doing super well for your first few weeks, saw a ton of progress, but then that plateau hit you. And then when you try to rediscipline yourself, you try to get consistent again, you find that it's way more difficult to create more progress and more results. And then you find yourself in that on and off cycle where you're either on point, you're super disciplined, or you're on the other end where you say fuck it and you just give up. If that has ever happened to you, say me in the comment section below. It has happened to me plenty of times. Plenty of times. Now let's talk about person B. Person B loses 10 pounds of water weight within the first 2 weeks, making some minute lifestyle adjustments. Minute lifestyle changes, like drinking a gallon of water, like getting more steps in, like getting better sleep in, having cut out carbs or cut out calories or done anything crazy, just some small lifestyle changes. They end up losing 5 pounds, 10 pounds, something like that in the first 2 weeks. And then they go on to lose 1 pound per week for about 10 weeks. After those 10 weeks, they go on a little bit of a diet break for 1 week after those 10 weeks. And then they get right back on track. And then they lose another 1 pound per week for another 5 weeks. After those 5 weeks of getting back on track, they spend 6 weeks on a post-diet recovery phase, and they only gain 5 pounds back. Person B, total weight loss is 20 pounds in 24 weeks, while eating more than when they started their cut in the first place, and is able to keep their results after they finish their cut. Would you rather be person A or person B? Let me know in the comment section below. Would you rather be person A or person B? Person A, you see really quick results really, really fast, but then you also find yourself hitting them plateaus really fast, and you almost find yourself in that cycle of where you're putting in all that work, but you're not really seeing the fruits of your labor. Whereas for person B, they take a little bit of a slower approach. But in a matter of 24 weeks, they end up losing double the amount of weight and they're eating double the amount of food. Not double the amount of food, but they're eating more food than when they even first started their cut. I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather be person B. Every single individual that you see on the screen right now, they used to be person A. On the left, they used to be person A. But after working with us at Transcendent Phenoms, they have learned the skill sets to be able to become person B. Happened to literally every single one of these individuals before working with us. I share this with y'all and I break down those two different journeys for y'all to show y'all that, the fastest approach is the one that helps you keep the weight off. Yes, you might see faster progress right from the start when you make some restrictive changes, when you do some crazy changes right from the start. But don't expect to keep it off long term. Don't expect to be able to keep up with that long term. If you've been following my page, you've probably heard me say this before, but don't be that guy who speeds up just have to stop at the next red light. We all hate that guy. Don't be that guy. You hate it. Don't be that person that other people hates as well. Now let's go over why plateaus happen. With all of these trainings, I don't just want to give y'all practical advice, but I also want to educate you guys on why things are happening the way they are. This way you actually have an understanding of what's going on. Because let's be honest, you can find all of this information online. The best diets, the best workouts, the best protocols, how to make these adjustments. You can find literally all this information online. But that's not the purpose of these trainings. The purpose of these trainings is so that you have a clear understanding, so that this way you have clarity around how your body actually works. So that this way, hey, we can nip those bad habits, those patterns that kept you stuck in the ass. This way, you don't have to continue living that cycle and those old patterns over and over and over again, especially if it's not a cycle or pattern that you want to continue going down. First things first, too drastic of a change, too quick. Examples of this, fasting, cutting out carbs, cutting out sugars, doing intense forms of cardio. Again, you're going to see really, really fast progress right from the start. But your body is eventually going to adapt. It's going to get harder over time. Second reason, there's no way of quantifying your protocol. Some examples of this, eating healthy, fasting, cutting out sugars. Here's the thing. You can be eating healthy. You can be fasting. You can be cutting out sugars. But you can also still be eating in a calorie surplus if you're eating foods that are calorie dense. Foods as in salmon, avocado, nuts, oils, peanut butter. These are healthy fats. But it also include a lot of calories. Just because you're eating healthy doesn't mean that you're necessarily in a calorie deficit. And lastly, your metabolism isn't primed for fat loss. I want you to think of your metabolism like a gas tank. You're going to need to refill it when you run out of gas. If you've done diets in the past, it's likely that your metabolism has slowed down, which is why plateaus happen, which is why it gets more hard and more difficult to create even more progress. Some signs to know if your metabolism has slowed down. If you're gaining weight eating the same amount of food and you're doing the same activity levels. If you feel tired and lethargic all the time. If you're always feeling constipated and bloated. And if your cravings are always through the roof. If you're noticing any of these, or even all of these, it is very, very likely that your metabolism has slowed down from past diets. And that is what's causing you to hit these plateaus. That is what's causing fat loss to be super difficult. Most people are trying to drive across the country on a close to empty gas tank. And they wonder why they're falling short when it comes to their fat loss journey. Again, treat your metabolism as a gas tank. You're eventually going to run out of gas over time. Let's say you're trying to drive from New York City all the way to LA. You're literally going across the country. if you've done diets in the past, if you've attempted fat loss in the past, it is likely that you're not starting with a full tank. And it's going to get that much more difficult for you to go ahead and go from point A to point B. So, how do you avoid plateaus? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. First things first, break your transformation up into phases. This is something I wish I started doing way earlier. Way earlier. I used to think that, as long as I stay in a calorie deficit, and if I do it long enough, I will eventually reach my goals. Yes, logically it makes sense. Like you have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. Like as long as I stick to the calorie deficit, I'm gonna lose the weight. It's not even a matter of if I'm going to, it's a matter of when. But here's the thing. Your body adapts over time. Your body is really good at adapting over time. Which is why I don't recommend you being in a deficit for more than 12 to 16 weeks at a time. Because the longer that you go in your deficit, that deficit eventually ends up not even being a deficit anymore. Your body is eventually going to adapt to surviving off those lowered amount of calories. The phases that we have all of our kinds run through, this is pretty much in order. But for some individuals, it's going to change. We start them off with fat loss priming. That is exactly what we've been doing for the 7-day reset. Notice how we didn't put you in a calorie deficit. Notice how we haven't necessarily made you do some crazy diets. We've, in fact, had you increase your calories for most of you. We had you increase it to your maintenance calories. This is to allow your body to actually establish a starting point. And if you've done diets in the past, and if your gas tank ain't full right now, let's fill it up before we go on that long ass road trip. And then we head into a fat loss phase once we get their metabolism at a really good spot. 12 to 16 weeks into the deficit, we give them a diet break or we give them a refeed week. And then we attempt and go about part 2 and part 3, if needed, of their fat loss phase. After they've lost their weight, after they've gone to a good body fat percentage that they're happy with, we get them with a post-diet recovery. Most people skip this step. In fact, most people skip step 1 and the last step, causing them to wonder why they're not seeing the type of results they want to see. Secondly, whoa, we're getting balloons out here. Zoom's celebrating with us. Second way to go about avoiding plateaus. Treat your fat loss journey like a marathon and not a sprint. You've probably also heard this saying before. Treat your fat loss journey like a marathon and not a sprint. Let's use a marathon as an example. Like if you sprint right from the start, of course you're going to be in first place. Of course you're going to be ahead of everyone. But what happens come mile 5, mile 10, mile 15, mile 20? Mind you, there are 26 miles in a marathon. If you don't think you can maintain that same speed within the first few miles, don't even attempt going at that entire thing. It's not going to happen. For most people, slow and steady is always going to win. Always going to win. Some examples of speeding up and going crazy with your fat loss journey, sprinting right from the get-go, dropping calories drastically, adding a ton of cardio, and even adding extra workouts. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for seeing progress. I'm all for putting in the work. I'm all for grinding hard. But if you're burning yourself out right from the get-go, best of luck come mile 5. Let's not even talk about 10, 15, 20, 25. Good luck at mile 5. So take it slow and steady. This way, you're not burning yourself out within the first few miles and you actually have gas in the tank to get you through the entire race. And last but not least, track your data. If you want guaranteed results, treat this just like your finances. It's not the sexiest thing to do, I know. No one wants to track their budget. No one wants to track their finances. It's not the fun thing to do. It's not the sexiest thing to do. But it's those who spend the 5 to 10 minutes every single day that actually sees guaranteed results because they know that this is a numbers game. This ain't about how good I am at my willpower, at my discipline, at just keeping all the information in my head. The more data that you track, not only the more data that you have, you can analyze, but the more clarity that you have on exactly what it is that you need to fix. If you're not tracking any data, let's say that you're just cutting your portion sizes, you're just eating less carbs, you're working out more, which I'm all for. But what happens once you hit a plateau? You're not going to even know what to do next. What, you're going to add another workout when you're already working out 7 days a week? What, you're going to drop your calories even more when you're barely eating anything? When you're eating only one meal per day? What, you're going to eat even healthier when you're already eating nothing but healthy foods? Track your data because a lot of this comes down to the numbers. How many calories are you consuming? How many calories are you burning? What are your metrics when it comes to your workouts? Are you pushing yourself harder? Are you actually recovering from these workouts? If you ain't tracking, you slacking. I'm not going to even quote that because that's not from me. I heard that from somewhere, but yeah, if you ain't tracking, you slacking. Some sources of data that I recommend tracking. I have all of my clients do these. Of course, track your calories. We talked about that the other day. If you need help figuring out how many calories you should be eating or how to break down those calories, simply go to the video right above this, right before this, and it should teach you all about it. I'm not going to dive too much into it on this one because you can go back to that one. It will be a long one if we added both of them together. Your workouts, as in the amount of sets you use, the amount of reps you use, the weight that you use for your workouts. This way, you're ensuring that you're making progress over time. Your body weight, step it on a scale every single morning. It's going to fluctuate, but what we're looking for here are the trends. Your step count to see what your activity levels are like, and also your progress pictures. You can see that number to scale go up or even stall out, but see two completely different human beings with your progress pictures. Track your data. This way, you have more data points to look at on the type of progress and results you're making. All of these can be stolen, but your progress pictures be wild. Happened many, many times, not only with myself, but with dozens and dozens of clients. Again, what we're looking for here are the trends over time. Obviously, things come up. Obviously, fluctuations happen. Oh, good. Life happens sometimes. But we're not necessarily trying to have you be perfect here. We're looking at the trends, which is what is going to allow us to know what direction you need to take next. And to end things off, I'm going to end this here. You are one successful diet away from getting lean for life. Just one successful diet away from getting lean for life. If you've been going at this fat loss thing for some time now, it is very likely that you've tried pretty much everything under the sun. Fasting, keto, eating healthier, doing cardio, eating one meal per day, detoxes, 10K steps, you name it. There's a reason why you're still where you're currently at. There's a reason why you're still searching for more information on how to actually get rid of this fat. There's a reason why you find yourself back at square one over and over and over again. And that is simply because those restrictive approaches, those shortcuts, it ain't going to yield long-term results. It's just like that saying that we gave at the start of this training. Don't be that guy who speeds up just to find himself at a red light. We all hate that guy. Don't be that guy. You are one successful diet away from getting lean for life. I hope that these trainings over the course of the last few days has opened your perspective to a new way of thinking when it comes to your fat loss journey. Yes, you got to put in work. Yes, you got to make sacrifices. Yes, it's going to require you to act differently. But also, let's look at the fine-tuned details here. It's not just about working hard. Most of you guys know how to work hard. Y'all are already working hard. But if your efforts aren't necessarily getting you the results that you want, we gotta take a different approach. If you've been busting your ass day in and day out for weeks, months, years, and you're still not where you want to be yet, it's time for a new approach. Let this be the last time you're stuck. Let this be the last time you have to restart. Let this be the last time you have to be back at square one once again. If you guys ever need anything, any help, if you have any questions, I'm only a message away. I got y'all, fam. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let me know if you guys have any questions. No more fat loss plateaus ever again. I don't want y'all ever having a struggle with fat loss ever again. With all of these trainings over the course of the last few days here, you should have everything that you need to know to go ahead and put this into pieces. And let's make this happen in 2025. Much love. Have the best day ever. And let's talk soon.